Hey, I'm Big Jeff from BigJeffAudio.com doing some episodes of Car Audio 101.
Big Jeff's Audio 101.
In this episode of Big Jeff's Car Audio 101, Jeff will be answering the following questions. Would it be more beneficial to use large, deep cycle marine batteries instead of standard car audio batteries? What's the difference between RMS power and peak power, and why does it matter when choosing speakers and amplifiers? How does box design, sealed versus ported versus bandpass, affect subwoofer performance and sound characteristics? How does the auto turn-on or signal sensing feature work in vehicles without a traditional remote wire? What is Impedance Rise and how does it affect subwoofer output and amplifier load? Does the amp's compact design impact performance compared to larger models?
And this is episode 7. We're in 2025 and we come up with common questions about car audio. And for 2025, we're also showing some shout outs, love back to the followers, the haters that left comments and show that you see me and now I see you. Question 1, would it be more beneficial to use large deep cycle marine batteries instead of standard car audio batteries? Now that question I'm gonna say when they're saying standard, we'll just say AGM or even be lithium, but let's look at a couple things. Deep cycle batteries were used a while back when we didn't have all these options. Higher reserve capacity, deep discharge rate, so basically you could kind of go at it longer, and that's why they were marine for like trolling motors and things like that, where a normal battery would discharge quicker. And durability. Most marine batteries were some type different casing, wing, well, I forgot what they were called, like, I don't remember, the little spin down type mounts. But some drawbacks are lower cranking amps because they're made for a slower discharge. They are larger and were heavier. And I wouldn't say it's a drawback, but it was a slower discharge rate, which did give you more time. So now with technology and AGM and definitely lithium, that deep cycle I definitely would not recommend for a car audio system. Okay, to the first comment. This was Michael Bladen 4971. It was in an unboxing audio pipe video, and he writes, Sony guts going out of business. I don't know how he takes audio pipe and puts that with Sony and or even saying audio pipe going out of business, especially when the company's been around 30 plus years and is owned by a company called Nippon America, which is one of the largest manufacturing and distributors of all types of items, from capacitors to DJ equipment to toilet seats, and they are worldwide. So for you, Michael, I guess you're just kind of talking out of... All right, question number 2. What is the difference between RMS power and peak power? Why does it matter when choosing speakers and amplifiers? Well, let's keep this real simple. RMS power, peak power. So the way I always explain this to people in the retail world was, if I have a vehicle that can do 150 miles per hour, how long could it do 150 miles per hour before it overheats, blows up, or whatever? But if that vehicle was locked in, say, at 90 miles per hour, it could go cross country. Same kind of concept with amplifiers. RMS rating is a rating of it doing continuous power, and maybe not forever, but it was rated at that to just stay clean and smooth and not overheat or shut down. Peak power is like that car going 180 miles an hour. What is the most I can get out of this thing? Doesn't mean it's going to last long, doesn't mean it's not going to overheat or blow up, but it's capable of doing that. I hope that makes sense. Okay, next comment, Kevin Cowan, VM6PW, not really sure. This was from episode 6 of Car Audio 101. Hey, Big Jeff, what's your favorite song? Wow, great question. I don't really have a favorite song. I am old school. Hopefully I don't look it, but I did just turn 47. Growing up, Mind's Playing Tricks on Me was always a big song for me. But as I got older, more new wave, I've always been fond of like Future, Lil Wayne. I'm more old school guy. Don't get me wrong, I like some of the newer stuff, but when I really want to get in the zone, that's where I go to. Hey, I see you, you see me, thanks. Question number 3. How does box design, sealed versus ported versus bandpass, affect subwoofer performance? and sound. Okay, great question. I'm going to keep this simple. Sealed, tight, and very accurate bass. Also, sealed will take and can handle more power because there's more back pressure. Now, also, it is said that sealed box would be more in that sound quality realm, but that doesn't mean you can't do that with vented. Ported, louder, deeper bass. Not as punchier as tight, and it also needs to be much bigger. And let me go a little step further. Think of a trombone. If I move the slide even 1 inch, it changes the whole tone. So when you do a ported box, and it's obviously prefab, or if you get a custom built, if the port's off by even 1 inch, it's gonna change the frequency. Bandpass. This was big in my days, and now there's different orders, 4th order, 5th order, etc. But general bandpass is basically a box inside of a box. It gets very loud with little power, but it's a narrow range, so you miss a whole bunch. But for people that are just trying to tune in to a particular set of frequencies, a bandpass, although very large, can do a lot of output with little power. I hope that kind of made sense. Okay, let's get to another comment. This was Car Audio Obsessions, that's his name, from AudioPipe 12K Unboxing. 4-volt input, that's below standard. Most are 6-volt. The new MTX amp I bought is 10-volt input. Well, I'm not really sure what he got out of the video there. 4-volt is kind of a standard of being clean power. Can some amps handle more? Yes, but what would that do? Once you go past 4 volts, it's not going to be any different. The higher the voltage, one, cleaner the signal, but also it's like a gas pedal and you don't have to push it down as high. So if I was to put 10 volts into an amp, it's automatically going up to its level faster, right? So I don't know why you'd be happy that your amp can handle 10 volts. Do you even need 10 volts? No, standard is 4 volts. Anything above that's not going to do anything different. Now, if you are splitting that signal off and then it does drop down, I can see that, but I don't see it in your comments. I think you're just talking. I see you, you see me, and so does everybody else. All right, question 4. How does the audio turn on signal sensing feature work? Okay, great. So you always used to have to use a 12-volt turn on. Most of the time it was ignition. Some people put a switch. As vehicles got newer, more and more vehicles didn't have an actual 12-volt because it was done through like a CAN bus, TXRS, so it was more of a signal. You also had to run another wire. So companies started producing where it would sense voltage through the speakers and turn the amp on. But here's the problem with newer vehicles. Most newer vehicles, your system doesn't really shut down all the time. It actually, even like when your door opens, it'll pulse through there. I mean, there's a bunch of reasons why I wouldn't want to use the sensing, and I'd rather have a fixed turn on and turn off. But for simple applications, simple vehicles, you don't want to run an extra wire, you could do that. Or let's say your battery is in the rear and you just need power and ground, and the amp does have that feature of turning itself on and off. But I've seen some big turn on off pops. I've seen it turn on when you don't even want on, and I've seen people's batteries die because, like I said, the vehicle doesn't really ever shut off, and it could turn the amp on. And then when the amp's on, it's actually emitting the tone. And if your vehicle does have microphones for noise canceling, it's like a loop and it just keeps it on. But either way, if you can, run a wire either off of a switch or find a real ignition source. Don't use a test light. Use a multimeter. Sometimes you will think you have 12 volts, but it's not. It's really 5 because it's just signal. Always use a multimeter. All right, next comment. Rain Vow 6 and Fortnite Moment 797. That is a mouthful. This was from one of our lives. It says, I can't seem to get terminals to tighten on my SAE battery with the Allen wrench. Okay, so he's talking about the Big Jeff terminals, I'm guessing. Definitely want to use Loctite, and also you might not have enough grab, meaning whatever you're using isn't thick enough. Get yourself a washer, put that in line, which then will gap that out, and then you might be able to get better tighten. If you use Loctite, don't use too much because you don't want it permanent, but that will also help for it loosening up. I don't recommend a lock washer because that actually separates and you don't get full contact. The whole point of battery distribution is good contact. So don't use a lock washer, but try a washer. If that doesn't work, contact us at 737 Big Jeff and send us some pictures of what you got going on. We'll see what we can do. All right, I see you, you see me. Next question. What is the impedance rise and how does it affect subwoofer and output amplifier load? Okay, I think if you're in car audio, this is always discussed. Okay, so amps are rated, and let's say you have a 1 ohm amplifier rated at 1,000 watts. Chances are at 4 or 2 ohm, it's gonna cut that in half, 4 ohm, even more. So if you need 1,000 watts, and it's recommended that it does it at 1 ohm, and your rise, your impedance rise now is like 2.5, you're not going to get the 1,000 watts. So that's why I always say buy a bigger amp, or a lot of amps have a regulated power supply, which means it'll make about the same amount of power between 1 and 2. But if your impedance rise is well over 3-4 ohms, you're going to lose a lot of power. Now, we do sell the basshead garage watt meters, which will tell you how much power and also give you the ohms, or you could test that with a multimeter. But you got to see where the rise is. Now, some guys even do a trick by lowering the impedance wiring of their speakers already. So for instance, if it's a 1 ohm amp, they actually wire up and buy speakers so they can wire it down to 0.5 ohm. So when it does rise, it's back normal. But be careful because you don't want to hurt the amp. And if the rise isn't fast enough, you could actually go backwards. So more rap, find your impedance rise and buy something that produces that power at that ohm. There we go. All right, to the next comment from Carl Jackson, dash M8P from the 12K unboxing. We had a lot of comments there. Everybody knows AP amps are trash and overheat and don't buy this junk. No, everybody doesn't know because the company's been around for 30 plus years and they've made very little changes in their designs because it works. And AudioPipe actually in the last 3 years put a lot into the technology of their amplifiers actually transferring that heat outwards, even down, which I brought up in the video, of that double layer where it looks like a cutout and it's made to allow for that heat to transfer, dissipate. So you, my friend, are talking out there. And now everybody sees you and you see me. Come up with some real stuff. Okay, last question for episode 7. Does the amp compact design impact performance compared to larger models? This is a great question. Well, let's look at it. Smaller amps, harder for heat dissipation, smaller power supplies, internal components to fit in there, and can be smaller for output power. But with technology and things have changed in the modern Class D, you could actually get pretty good power. And even I've shown you on B2 Audio where they've done double layer chassis or other things to help disperse the heat. You can get away. But yes, a bigger physical style amp could produce more power and have better heat reduction. But I'll tell you what, technology's come a long way. So don't look at the size. Now, what actually matters though, the quality of the components, what type of capacitors, MOSFETs, right? So just because an amp produces power and you're getting a great deal on it, doesn't mean it's got the components that equal out. You might be getting crappier components, which in long would be less longevity, the amp won't last as long, crappier output, could be distorted signals, all types of things. If you're going to DC and then fry everything. But smaller stuff is normally Class D. If you ever looked at AB amps, they're a bit bulkier and bigger, right? But there is a sound quality difference, some people say, and longevity of it. Also, just because it's a brand name doesn't mean, but a lot of the bigger brand names do put more money into the internals. So, you kind of buy and pay what you get. Everything cheaper isn't bad, but sometimes spend a little extra dollars, especially for a good warranty, will help you out. And then always actual RMS ratings and peak ratings. Worry about the RMS ratings because that's what you're doing in your vehicle. Great question though. That was the end. But we have one last comment. Crazy Foot 490. This was from Car Audio episode 5. Big Jeff, this is a great topic. I want to give you a rundown, then a quick question. I'm running Precision Power 330 amp audio Pacific alternator. Have a 4 Optima yellow top batteries. That's old school. Probably have overdone it. on the ground strapping, but never had enough. I'm running 1500.1D and a 1000, 2 ohms, 2 mid-range, 2 8s, 2 12s, 2 15s. Does that sound equate for power? You got a lot going on there. I'd have to really break that down, but I did pick up a 330 amp alternator. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of any Optima batteries, they were really cool years ago because it was like the first of its kind, but it's nothing special, and I would put up my Big Jeff lithiums against those any day. But having that high amp alternator and having at least yellow tops, which are accessory type batteries, I think you're fine. But at the end of the day, get a meter in there, see what the voltage is dropping to. Run a fluke or something to strap on and see what amperage is pulling out. If you're pulling more than the 330 amps, well, then you know the alternator is stressing there. But if you have enough reserve capacity, you should be fine. But check the voltage. If the voltage is staying up and say your charging rate is at 14.8 and it's not really dropping under 14, you're good. But if it starts dipping down to those 12s, I would start looking into at least changing out the batteries, because unless you can add a second alternator, you got to do it with capacity. So great questions. This was Car Audio 101. I'm Big Jeff. Make sure you hit the like button. Leave a comment. I might put your comment up on one of the future episodes. Let me know good and bad. Hey, maybe I even fumbled my words, and let me know. I can take criticism. For you trolls, I accept that too. It's all good for the analytics. Listen, I'm Big Jeff from BigJeffAudio.com with another Car Audio 101, Episode 7. Signing off. I'll see you on the next one.